Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this one I wanted to talk to you guys about my experience with therapy. Now I've been in therapy for 5 years, and in this one I wanted to share with you guys what it is that I've learned. And the first thing is that our brains, our minds do not come with memory delusion button. I think that this is something that we have to be careful of, because you know, mental health has been at the forefront of the conversations on social media for the last, I would say, 6-7 years, right? Because there are so many mental health professionals who are content creators, because every time that someone's open up about any type of struggle on forums like, you know, Quora, the first answer is, you know, seek help. You know, this can make us feel as if therapy is gonna solve all our issues, is gonna fix all of our problems, that, you know, we are not gonna have any problems anymore once we talk to somebody about what we've been through and what happened to us. And I wanted to caution you guys against that thinking, because that is a dangerous narrative, because it is one that will demotivate you and stop you from working on yourself. I know that I certainly suffered from this. You know, the first time that I considered therapy was almost a decade ago. I was 26 at the time, but you know, when I started, you know, pulled the trigger finally, I was around 29 at the time, and I really thought that, you know, this was going to change my life, right? I really thought that, you know, talking to somebody about the early neglect that I experienced is going to, you know, change my life. And it kind of did somehow, but not in the way that I thought that it would. You know, it's important to remember that, trigger warning here, if you have been sexually molested at age 8, this is something that you will remember at 18. It's something that you will remember at 28. It is something that you will remember at 38, 48, hell, even at 68, right? Just hopefully the way, you know, you think of the event and, you know, the way you cope and deal with it at age 18, hopefully it's not the same way you deal with it at age 68. But it's not something that we forget, sadly, right? But if when you were 18 you used to be super promiscuous as a response to what happened to you, which we know that that is something that does happen to victims or survivors of sexual abuse, you know, hopefully once you are 38, that is not the way you approach that subject anymore, right? So this is important to, or that trauma rather, anymore. So I found that it was important to share. Now the second thing that I wanted to share is that therapy is touch and go, right? It is not, you know, something, healing in general isn't something that is linear, you guys. I remember my very first session, I really felt like I had made tremendous progress, that I had to break through, right, at least. But you know, there were times throughout the years where I felt like, oh, this is not really working, you know, I'm not really seeing like real change, sorry. And it just felt like I was not really advancing, you know. So try to keep that in line, you know, in mind. Healing is not like linear. It's not something that, you know, happens like this, like this, like this, you know. It's more like right, left, center, you know. It's not as linear as sometimes we would like it or we would need it to be. Now the third thing that I learned is that therapy is hard work. Okay, now this is something that I had not anticipated, but therapy is hard work, you guys, right? It's not only just talking to somebody about what happened to you, you know. Unfortunately, I mean, if at least if you take the exercise seriously, you know, my therapist literally give me exercises to do, and you know, on any given week I can find myself doing anywhere between, you know, 3 to 9 hours, you know, of exercise. Not, you know, like in one time, but you know, on Monday I may do like 2 hours, and on Tuesday an hour, on Wednesday nothing, and then on Thursday again, you know, 45 minutes or whatever, right? So you know, there's real work that goes into it, real work of, you know, self-awareness and introspection, and you know, like rewriting your story and reshaping what happened to you, and you know, reparenting yourself, and you know, etc, etc. So a lot of hard work does go, you know, into healing, and when you take your therapy seriously. And I guess is healing fatigue is a real thing, right? Like I said, the same way you can feel like sometimes you are not making real progress You can also feel sometimes like giving up, not only because you don't feel like you're making any progress, but also because, you know, you can be tired of always like working on yourself, especially if you have the feeling that other people are not doing the same thing. I know that this is something that I go through. You know, I am far away from being perfect. This is something that I would gladly acknowledge. But one thing about me, I will always be, you know, introspective. I will always be self-aware, and I will always be willing to apologize when I'm the problem. You know, real apologies, not just I'm sorry but I did it because you did XYZ. Like, genuinely, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said or done that, and going forward I would actually try my best, you know, not to do it again, and actually try, right? But when you are doing all of that and then dealing with a lot of people who are not, you know, putting in that amount of work, it can be very demotivating, and it can make you feel like, oh, you know, why am I even doing this? You know, no one is doing it anyways, you know, so I may as well just drink my wine and be as toxic as anybody else. But I wanted to encourage you not to give up. Now, it's okay to take breaks. You know, sometimes I do take breaks. I do cancel, you know, 1, 2, 3 sessions sometimes when I'm beat, when I'm exhausted. But, you know, I want to encourage you to keep on going. You know, working on yourself is worth it, you know, first and foremost for you, right? And the final thing that I wanted to touch on in this video is remembering that, you know, mental health professionals are human beings. I think this is a big one, and this is something worth talking about. This is not something that I've seen in any of these videos addressing why I quit therapy or what I've learned in therapy, but I think this is very important. This is a very important cautionary tale that people who are deciding or want to or considering, you know, sharing their life with somebody else and seeking guidance from said person need to remember that, you know, these people have their own biases. You know, they have their own traumas. You know, a lot of the times psychology and the human mind is something that attracts a lot of people with a very heavy history of trauma. I know that this is my case. I know that I have read almost 500 books about the subject in order to reverse engineer my own trauma, and I know for a fact that this is the case of most mental health professionals. I would say a good, you know, 70, perhaps even 80% of them. So this is something that you want to keep in mind when talking to these people, because I've read online people who have had a hard time connecting, you know, with a psychiatrist or a therapist. So if it doesn't work the first time around, you know, try somebody else, and again, somebody else. Don't feel any qualm about changing, you know, a counselor 1, 2, 3 times if it's not working for you. You know, keep in mind that obviously you are giving these people the right to manipulate you, like you are open to them doing that, but still understand that you are still your best counsel, right? Sometimes I have gone against what my therapists have advised me to do, and I still had really good results doing that. So remember, you are the expert on you. Remember that some of these people may have biases like we all do, you know, about certain things. These are humans, you know, they watch reality TV, they eat junk food, they smoke cigarettes, right? Or, you know, these are people, these are humans. So keep that in mind. You know, I know that I personally, in my own, you know, healing and therapy journey, I could always tell when a mental health professional was like kind of disagreeing with me, or when they had like perhaps personal experience with something I was talking about, or it's something that went against their values. You know, their body language always kind of like betrayed them, whether it be like to be adjusting their glasses or going like stuff like that, and I could tell, you know, they were not very comfortable with what I was saying or what I was sharing or stuff like that. So be very mindful to that as well. You know, remember, you know, these people are just that, they are merely humans. And in closing of this video, I wanted to share, I guess, 3 things with you that I learned in therapy, like techniques and tactics that I found helpful in a day-to-day life. And the first one is the pause. Okay, practice the pause when something is going on. When you feel triggered, practice the pause. When somebody says something and your first like initial reaction is to go like, ah, practice the pause. Okay, like just take a second just to breathe, go in your mind, you know, 5, 4, 3, and just give yourself just a second. Okay, when you read something very triggering or going through a situation that is very triggering, I have found that, you know, so sorry you guys, the window is open and we have an ambulance going somewhere, but I have found that, you know, the pause has been extremely helpful in those situations. So just take a breather when something is going on and you feel already in your body, because you can feel the tension like rising up, you know, practice the pause. And the second thing, I think I talked about this already earlier in the video, is practice apologizing without, you know, giving like excuses. You know, do not try to, you know, like kind of explain why you did something. Understand that this kind of like cancels out the apology that you gave somebody, which is kind of rude. So, you know, don't get into, when you apologize, like telling the person, yes, I did it, but I only did it because you did XYZ. You know, just say you're sorry, or you shouldn't have done it, or say it. And, you know, going forward, actually try. You know, don't just say, you know, I'll do better, right? We know that men are experts on this. Actually try, you know, to do better, your hardest, right? And the third thing that I wanted to share with you in this video is using I statement. You know, when dealing with somebody or a situation, right, make sure that you use I statement. I think that this can de-escalate a lot of our conversations with people. You know, human beings do not like being attacked generally. I know you don't, and neither do I, and so do, you know, all the other 8 billion humans that we are. So instead of telling your friends like, you did this and that was crazy, and you made me do that, and that was rude as fuck, and that was crazy as fuck, right, you know, try saying, I feel XYZ when you do XYZ, and I promise you, I guarantee you that whether it is in your, you know, personal relationship with your boyfriend or husband, or with your relationship with your friends or colleague, you are going to get much better results. So look at me giving you guys, you know, tricks and tips that I learned. I hope that those were helpful to you, and that they will be in your day-to-day life. Do not forget to give this video a thumbs up if you have found it helpful, because this is the end of it. In the comment section down below, let the community know, you know, what are the best tips that you have learned in therapy, or, you know, talking to a counselor. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel as well, and I will talk to you guys on Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye guys.